Hello, this short video has been created to help explain the process of how somebody can apply for a home with Bromford. Anybody wanting to apply for a home must either apply to their local authority to join the housing register or make a direct online application on the Homes Direct choice-based letting scheme. Some local authorities advertise our properties on their own choice-based letting scheme, CBL for short, but others will make a nomination to us direct from their housing register. Homes Direct is a CBL scheme which Bromford and other RSLs use to advertise empty homes in certain areas. All of our empty homes in Lichford and Telford, and around about half of our empty homes in Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Solihull, Sandwell and Dudley are advertised on Homes Direct. When a customer creates an online application on Homes Direct, they are assessed and placed into a housing needs band. The band they are in will depend on how they have answered the questions on the online application form. If a customer bids on one of our advertised properties and are at the top of the list, they will have to prove their housing circumstances before we agree to make an offer to them. Some of the types of housing needs recognised in the Homes Direct systems are whether the person or family are considered to be homeless, if they live in unsatisfactory conditions, have any medical or welfare needs or support, or if they have any financial hardship. From this assessment, the person or family are then categorised within a band. If they come through to us via this method, it may form part of the neighbourhood coach's responsibility to check this banding if the lettings advisor has been unable to do so. Every local authority is required to have a housing allocation schedule, which sets out who they give priority to on their housing register. Local authorities must take into account 4 important pieces of legislation when developing their allocation scheme: the Housing Act 1996, the Homelessness Act 2002, the Localism Act 2011, and the Equalities Act 2010. Another thing that can impact how we let our homes is related to planning laws. A Section 106 agreement, as it's called, is a document that sets out conditions on gaining planning approval for a new build development. Local authorities have Section 106s to ensure that any affordable housing units are let to local people who need them. They are scheme-specific and usually contain conditions about the type of local connection somebody needs to have to an area and whether or not Bromford has to ask for nominations. You should try to familiarise yourself with any Section 106 agreements that are in force on your path. Sometimes when we let our new build for the first time, there is a local lettings plan in place which will set out the profile of customers we would like to attract to the new development to create substantial communities, as well as helping local authorities with housing people in need. Local authorities have the responsibility for deciding if someone is homeless. To do this, they apply the law and have to follow steps to see if they owe a customer any homeless duty. The first thing they consider is whether someone is homeless or threatened with homelessness within 28 days. This does not mean that the person has to be sleeping rough. It can take into account whether someone can reasonably be expected to live in their current home, for example. So it is possible for someone who is a tenant somewhere, but living in very overcrowded circumstances, to be found to be homeless. If they are homeless, then the second consideration is whether the person is eligible. Do they have recourse to public funds? If they pass those 2 tests, then the consideration is if the person is a priority, e.g., do they have children, are they pregnant, or are they vulnerable? So if they are homeless, eligible for assistance and in priority need, we need to establish if they became homeless intentionally. The local authority will consider if the person did or didn't deliberately do something to cause the homelessness. Finally, the last test is about whether the customer has a local connection, meaning they already live in the area, work locally, or have family living close by. we have to give a portion of our properties to local authorities and they will decide who is going to live in them. This is something called local authority nominations. If you're working as a neighbourhood coach, we would recommend that you get to know how your local authority works. The only waiting list we have at Bromford is on Homes Direct, which only covers a few of our local authority areas, so applicants should always register with the local authority. On rare occasions, we can make offers of a new home to our existing customers via a management move. They are only for exceptional circumstances and not usually where a customer is suffering from or at risk of domestic violence. If you have a customer in a violent situation like this, you should always refer them to their local authority homeless service, as the local authority will have a legal duty to provide safe, temporary accommodation immediately. Sometimes a local authority will have no properties of their own, and this is because of large-scale voluntary transfer. Bromford has a large number of ex-council properties in Lichfield and the Cotswolds, meaning we have inherited a lot of older stock. When a property becomes available to let, we can ask the local authority for a nomination. Sometimes we have access to their CBL system, and this means we can advertise a property ourselves directly onto their system. This is carried out by the lettings team. When the nominations come through, we can start the process and we will check a customer's eligibility for a property based on what was contained in the advert. These checks could be on family size, local connection, affordability, or age. If a customer is simply not eligible because of property size or local connection, we would not consider them for this home. This is called a bypass. The first customer on the list who is found to be eligible for the home will then be connected, so we can find out more about them and their current situation. We do a number of things to find out more after our initial call, such as landlord references, Experian checks. This is for an address check only and is not a credit check, and a getting to know you survey, which is sent out online and completed by the applicant. At this stage, we may have some information about a customer's behaviour that would lead us to make a decision not to proceed any further. If there are not problems at this stage, we would ask for a neighbourhood coach to carry out either a home visit or a viewing of the empty home. During a home visit, we would check things like local connection, proof of the right to rent, and the person's income and expenditure. The lettings advisor will make it clear to the neighbourhood coach if any additional checks around the customer's housing circumstances are needed. The neighbourhood coach may, during a home visit, discover some additional information that would lead them to want to make a decision not to make an offer. Any decision not to offer must be based on a customer's behaviour, such as looking after their current home, evidence of recent criminal convictions coming to light. Any decision not to offer should be discussed with the lettings team leader, as we have to write out a formal letter to the customer setting out our reasons for our decision. If, on the other hand, the home visit answers all of our questions and all of our facts have been satisfactorily checked, we then move on to the next stage, to make an offer and to sign up. Housing associations are funded and regulated by the Homes and Communities Agency, HCA. It's important to remember that everything we do must be fair and transparent and be kept within the rules of housing and equality laws. Thanks for watching.